Welcome back to HAPA Talkbacks. For those of you who have been tuning in every week, thank you. And this week we are so excited to have a Hammond native, Christian Fary, joining us. He did the dance connection growing up, for those of you who currently go there. And you probably have met some of his family or sisters if you're from the area. So Christian, welcome.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. So Christian, will you tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are and how you got started in the performing arts?
Sure. So I, like you said, I'm born and raised in Hammond, Indiana. And I started doing theater. I was about 9. My first show was Oliver at the Genesius Guild.
Oh.
Right here in Hammond. So, and I was taking dance classes at the Dance Connection. And I did that all up through high school. I did stuff at the Toll, a lot of community theater in the area. I did a lot of high school shows. I went to Munster High School, so I did a lot of shows there. And then I went to Indiana University in Bloomington. I studied musical theater there, and I got my BFA. And in January of 2018, I moved to New York City, made the big jump, and I have been there ever since, auditioning and working and trying to do the thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. So, as you know, we have some high school students here who are thinking very seriously about the performing arts professionally. Sure. So I'm always curious to ask all of the performers or theater artists we have here, what made you choose IU?
Mm-hmm.
How did that become your path?
Sure. So even in the few years since I've done the college audition process, it's very different. But it is incredibly rigorous. Very, very stressful. It's a lot of hard work. And it involves a lot of travel. And it's a really big mental game as well as a physical game. And so what I did was I applied for, I think I did 7 or 8 schools. And I sent in my pre-screen videos. And that differs from school to school. It's usually like 2 contrasting 32-bar cuts, monologue, and then maybe a dance video or something like that. So then after I did that, I waited to see what schools gave me an in-person audition.
Yeah.
And then you go from there. And for some of them, you have to visit the actual campus. So like for IU, for example, their audition dates, they have specific audition dates that they give you, and then you have to go to Bloomington and do an in-person audition there. Other schools will do the unified auditions in New York, Chicago, or LA. So I did those auditions, and then you sort of wait and see from there who accepts you into the program. And so for the longest time, I was hell-bent on not going to IU. A lot of people that I went to high school with were going to IU, and I was just like, I'm not, doing high school again. I'm not going to IU. But I visited IU after I got in, and I sat in on an acting class, and then I took a voice lesson with one of the professors there. And I just fell in love. And it really, what I found was that it's incredibly individualized what you need from a school. And you'll know where you're supposed to fit. Because at the end of the day, in, a musical theater program, a theater program, a dance program, you have to feel comfortable enough to explore things and try things that are really scary and step out of your comfort zone. And so I found that IU gave me that feeling out of all of the schools that I auditioned for.
Seriously. And you said something that I want to reiterate here for my students. Mm-hmm. Like that visit was the thing that sealed the deal. So if you are thinking about a school that you have the opportunity to visit and go see what the classrooms look like and what the people are like, do it.
Yeah.
Please. And so now I'm sure everyone is curious because I've told all my students what role you were recently playing.
Sure.
And Chris was recently playing Dwight Schrute in The Office, the musical parody on the national tour. So tell us about that. What was that experience like?
Sure. So The Office musical parody was my first like big job out of New York. I did some summer stock and I did some smaller regional theater work, but this was like my first big one. And so I booked that about a year ago-ish, last spring. They, I guess, technically currently have an off-Broadway run. And they had been running off-Broadway for about a year. And so they decided to launch a national tour, and they had open calls in New York, they had auditions. And so I originally went in for the role of Toby. For any Office fans out there, I went in for Toby. And through the callback process and different things like that, I ended up singing and reading for Dwight, and that it clicked. And so we left July. So we had a rehearsal process in New York for about 3 weeks. And then we went on the road in July. And we were touring from about August 1st until the coronavirus basically shut us down. But yeah, I mean, it was an incredible experience. Saw lots of parts of the country, got to perform in a lot of different situations at a lot of different theaters, learned a lot about stamina, what I need to do as a performer to be able to do my job 8 shows a week. Yeah, I mean, it was really incredible. It was really, really incredible.
I mean, 8 shows a week. I want my young performers to think about how exhausted you get after a 3-show weekend.
Yeah.
Or even a 4-show weekend.
I mean, that can be exhausting, and I can't imagine 8 shows.
Yeah, you learn a lot about like how much your diet affects your body as a performer, how much your sleep schedule. You really have to listen to all of the signs that your body is giving you and telling you, and really, really heed those warnings so that something bad doesn't end up happening. And there's safeties built in. We can get days off. We have understudies, things like that. But I mean, really, it's a job at that point. And I love what I do, and it's my art, and I love it so much. But it's also a job, and I have to be able to do that, 8 shows a week. So, that was one of the biggest takeaways that I got from this experience, is really, really learning what a long run is.
Yeah, no joke. And I'm also curious, so Dwight is such an iconic character. Have you found ways to make that your own, or do you have to pretty much stick to the...
Yeah, it's funny, because The Office is so iconic, and I feel like Dwight and Michael especially are people are coming to see our show to see Dwight and Michael. They're not coming to see me as Dwight. And so I struggled with that for a really long time, and I was kind of nervous to start performing in front of people and showing them, the Dwight that I had created. But what I found was that I really had to strip down Dwight Schrute to who he was at a base level, and find what really resonated with me as his character, different parts of his character. And that's sort of what I latched onto. And in terms of source material and things that we could reference, we had 9 seasons worth of incredible performances that all of us could look at, and our director and our writers were really great about being hey, watch this mannerism that you're bringing in as an actor, really think if, Aaron or Creed or Dwight would do that on stage, or do that in the office, So yeah, I mean, I really tried to find like a good blend of like what Rainn Wilson did, which is so incredible and so iconic, and then like sprinkling in little hints of me like here and there. Because that's, I mean, that's also a part of acting, is bringing a little bit of yourself to every character that you play, which I think is important. So
yeah, it's totally, you got to ride the line between, doing your own thing and
yeah, no,
representing that character accurately.
Yeah, for sure.
So is there a favorite Dwight-ism that you have, or a line that you said in the show, or a favorite number that you have?
Yeah, I sang this really great, like my like big number was this like really great, almost like Gilbert and Sullivan-esque number, and like it was super pattery and like lots of words, and like it was so much fun to like play this like super maniacal villain in that moment. Like it's so much fun. I don't know. I really loved doing that number. I also really loved, we had a number about the dinner party episode. And I loved performing that number. There were some really, really great harmonies in that number, like really great jazzy 4 parts that we all loved to sing. Yeah, I think those are probably like the 2 biggest standout moments in that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I do want to remind our audience here that you can drop questions for Christian in the live comments. We can see that. But so in your professional journey, so I'm sure you faced some challenges. What are some of those challenges you faced, and how have you overcome them?
Sure. So I think one of the biggest challenges is just sort of like New York City itself. And for me personally, for my artistic journey, or, whatever you want to call it, I felt that New York was the best place for me to go. And it's a loud city, it's a fast city, it's an expensive city. And there is no learning curve. You are thrown right in, and New York City says, welcome, let's go. So just sort of like adapting to life in New York City. And, we grew up living so close to Chicago. And so a big city itself wasn't scary, but sort of living my everyday life in a big city was really scary. Juggling a day job and my auditions was also a huge challenge, because unfortunately it's a necessity. So I went through a bunch of different day jobs. I sold Broadway merchandise. I was a substitute teacher. I worked for a temp agency for a while. I walked dogs. Yeah, just like a lot. So, just really balancing sort of the quote unquote real world with what you're doing. And then I think probably the biggest was sort of the audition process itself, and the rejection that comes with this way of life. And just you go as often as you can. Sometimes it's 3 or 4 in the morning that you're waking up to go and sign up for audition slots. Sometimes you can go and sign up and then go back to your apartment and take a little nap. And but sometimes it's you're up at 4:45 in the morning, and you're going down and standing in line in the middle of January outside of a building to be seen. And it's that is, I think, one of the biggest things is just like really committing to doing that, and every day as often as you can, going and auditioning, and working on auditioning. And yeah, it's tough out there. It's tough,
Yeah, and I think that, this is something all young performers face, is you have to learn how to bring your 100% even when you're not at 100%. I'm hearing 4 a.m. and I'm thinking, who on earth can be vocally at their best, emotionally at their best, physically at their best, and you have to be, and you have to learn that.
Yeah.
So, auditioning for the musical at the end of a school day is hard.
Right.
You got to learn how to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it really boils down to the fact that you have to look at yourself as a professional auditioner, and that is your job. And you have to be ready to sing your 16-bar cuts and your 32-bar cuts really without a whole lot of vocal warm-up, a whole lot of physical warm-up. And you have to really be ready and really control the things that you can control, because there's so much that is out of your control. And yeah, it takes practice. It does. There are more auditions that I can count where I walked out of the room and I said, woof, like that was not great. But you learn from it and you move forward and you do the next one.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and bring Joyce in. Everybody in the comments can go ahead and say hi to Joyce. Hi, Joyce.
Howdy.
Now, Joyce is sort of a jack of all trades at HAPA. She takes dance classes. She's in acting. She does show choir. So I'm going to let Joyce ask you a few questions, Christian.
Great.
Hi.
Hi, Joyce. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm wonderful.
That's great. My first question for you is, what is your dream role?
Ooh, that is so. There's so many. I think the first one that pops to my mind is from A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder. The Dysquith family would be probably one of my, I would say, top 5 dream roles. Yeah, just getting to play all of those characters. I think that track ends up with like 9 or 10 different characters. So I think that would be like really, really fun.
That sounds very interesting. I would go and see that.
Yeah.
Question 2, what are some qualities that tend to make someone great to work with?
Ooh, that's a great question. So they have to be, I think one of the biggest ones is sort of, they have to be able to take notes graciously. When I'm working with another performer and the director is trying to get something out of them or giving them notes and they're sort of talking back to the director or not really doing what he or she is asking, that is something that sort of puts me off. But also, they have to be friendly. They have to like to goof around when it's time to goof around. They have to like to work when it's time to work. And they also, have to, I think, respect the material that we're doing. Respect the script, respect the songs, and respect the show and the story that we're trying to tell.
Wow, I love that answer. I love that answer. I try to keep that in mind sometimes during shows.
Yeah.
Michelle. Oh, am I asking one more question?
No, that was all, Joyce. Thank you. Thanks. And we're going to actually bring in Inali next. Bye, Joyce. Inali is one of our seniors.
Mm-hmm.
She also has 2 questions for you. Oh, look, you've got a whole background set up.
Ready to go.
My first question would be, if you could give yourself, your 18-year-old self, any advice, what would it be?
I think one thing would be to breathe and relax. Take a breath. It's a lot of things, especially if you're going into any sort of art for college, can be incredibly stressful. And so I think one thing that I would say to myself is just sort of breathe. It's going to be okay. It's going to work out. And I think another thing that I would tell myself is to, read more plays, listen to more shows, be familiar with material, have a lot of things that you know that you can pull from if you need a song, if you need a monologue, if you need a reference point for something that you're working on, just sort of really build up that base knowledge that you can whip out at any time.
Okay. And then the second question is, do you think the audition process for The Office was any different than any others because it was based off of a TV show? Or
well, I mean, one thing that they asked for when we initially auditioned was to sort of you know, make it funny, show us that you can be funny, which a lot of times for things that you go in, you know, when you have 16 measures to sing, you don't have a lot of time to like set up a joke and land a punchline and all this stuff. And so for The Office, they definitely gave us a little bit more time in the audition room to show that. And I think because the characters that we were all going in for were so, you know, everybody knows who they are, and there's a lot of reference material and things like that. I think people really focused their audition songs to really highlight the character that they were going in for, which you don't see a lot necessarily, that songs are super character specific for auditions.
oh, okay. Well, that's my last question, but
Thanks,
thank you.
Christian, you said something that I want to hit home again,
Sure.
which is that I don't think any of the seniors who are going to performing arts high school, college, or university
Sure.
have any idea how much reading they're going to have to do. And it's get in the habit of it now. Pick up some plays, read them. You know, in high school, you're used to reading like, you know, a scene for homework. Like, get ready to read like 2 plays for homework in one night. Well, awesome. So, Christian, I know you have a movement background, right?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, sort of. Yeah.
So Christian is a dancer, but I want to know how that you think that helped you. Do you think that gave you a little bit of a leg up?
Sure. Yes, I would say yes. It's, you know, it is incredibly important if you're looking at musical theater to stay in dance. One thing, here's to answer one of the questions, what I would tell my 18-year-old self was get back in dance class. I should have taken ballet classes. I should have taken jazz classes. You know, Lexi from the Dance Connection, if you're listening, you were right. I should have taken way more than I did. College would have been a little bit easier. And it's, you know, in New York, I don't necessarily classify myself as a dancer. If people ask about my skill set, I say I'm a mover, you know, sort of lowering the bar of their expectations, and then maybe you surprise them a little bit. But yeah, no, dance is very, very important. It's not the end all be all by any means. But yeah, no, it is very important. Yeah. Stay in dance class, take dance class if you can. Yeah.
Yes. That's all of you who haven't been in Miss DT's classroom yet. That's your sign.
Take it.
All right. Awesome. Well, Christian, do you have any final words for, you know, the people of HAPA or the people of Hammond or the people of the world?
I don't know. I mean, listen, if performing, if the arts are what you love, then do it. It's so hard. It can be horrible at times. You know, it can beat you down, but if it's what you love, then do it. In any capacity, whatever that is, you know. And if you do decide to do this in college and later on, buckle up. It's a lot of work. It's really hard. But it's also, I mean, you know, it's the best thing in the world. I love my job more than anything. So yeah, if you love it, then do it.
That's awesome. You guys heard it here first. If you love it, then do it, and put in the hard work.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Christian. You can hang out, and thank you all for watching.
Great. Thank you.